Good morning. Yesterday in my sermon, I had a good time telling you about Lenny Kravitz, this great rock and roll singer who's now 56 years old. But as in so many sermons, there are all these wonderful details that I find out about the story that I really don't have time to put into a sermon, or maybe they're not the most relevant and significant thing. But I had some things I wanted to share with you about Lenny Kravitz this morning. You know, when the pandemic hit and the world began to shut back and down in the middle of March, he was getting ready to go on a concert tour down to Australia. He has a place where he lives in Paris, but he thought instead he would go to Eleuthera in the Bahamas. He has a little place there. For a long time, he just had a trailer on the beach. Now he has a one-bedroom home there. He grabbed a suitcase with a few pairs of jeans and he headed off to Eleuthera, knowing he'd be there for a few weeks. I know that feeling because I remember when we shut down back in the middle of March, and I knew we'd be back for Easter in April. Well, we were both wrong. Lenny is still on Eleuthera now. Been there for all these months, by himself with 2 dogs. And he talks about how it's been a wonderful time to reflect on life and just to be reflecting on God's calling on his life. He is a very spiritual person. Now, he has been there. That's what helped him to write the book that he's come out with right now, Let Love Rule. As I told you yesterday, it's a book that really talks about how he found his voice, because his upbringing was so very different. I mean, he wound up being born in 1964, and he was born to parents, a father who was white and was Jewish, Russian Jewish heritage, and a mother who was Christian and was African-American and had a Bahamas background, a Bahamian background. And so you have all of this come together in one child, and to be raised by black and white and Christian and Jewish backgrounds, I think it did something to him to try to help him figure out, what is the place for everybody in the world? What does it mean to love and to care for each other? He had such a fascinating upbringing. I mean, the people that wound up being kind of a part of his family. I mean, Diane Carroll wound up being kind of the adopted aunt. Cicely Tyson was his godmother. He remembered this really kind black gentleman. He got to sit on his lap while he'd play with his band and play the piano. Turned out his name was Duke Ellington. No, he just grew up around all these fascinating people. His mom was Roxy Roker. I didn't know she was the second cousin to Al Roker, the weatherman we see on TV. With all these connections, she actually tried out for the Jeffersons TV show, and she wound up getting the part of Helen Willett on the Jeffersons, and she was a part of an interracial marriage on TV, the first ever. But she was also living it out in real life. Lenny struggled to find himself and what did it mean to be able to love himself for who he was and to be willing to love others. And so it was when he ran into Lisa Bonet. She was playing on the Bill Cosby show, and she was kind of stardom. And he met her on an elevator. He said a wonderful line. He said, "I like your hair." Turned out that she was Jewish, half Jewish, and she too came from a mixed race family. It's like they understood each other. They were just 20 years old when they got married. A year later, they had their daughter Zoe, and that's when Lenny Kravitz found his voice. It really was being loved by Lisa and becoming the father of Zoe that he came out with his debut album that Zoe helped to produce, Let Love Rule. And it really has been kind of the feeling of his life. He doesn't hide that he's had struggles with his father, but they made up, or struggles with other people in his life. In the end, he and Lisa would get divorced. But in the end, they stayed close together as friends. He stayed close to his daughter Zoe. She would come and she lived with him for a number of years. And now she's married to Jason Momoa. And Lenny and Jason are the best of friends. They really like each other. He said, "We're one family." And that's how it should be. It turns out that he has a tattoo on his back that says, "I give my heart, My heart belongs to Jesus Christ. He is a person of faith who is trying to find a way to live love in this world. And it isn't always easy. But you and I can figure this out. With a greater understanding of one another, we can figure this out. In his book, Let Love Rule, he makes the statement, I dream of a better world, a world guided by love and not fear, where people choose unity and peace over division and self-destruction. What a great dream. Where people would choose unity and peace over division and self-destruction. That's a choice that you and I can make. Absolutely. Let love rule and love your neighbor with no exception. Have a great day.